Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's not leaving the office until she gets that spare heart. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
Hey, yep.
You're like filibustering. You're just gonna sit outside and wait till you get the heart.
I am. I'm going full Leslie Knope on this.
That's right. Oh, as I say about most shows, if only Leslie Knope was on this show.
Oh my God.
Because today we are talking about what is surely the most recent medical drama to premiere on network television. It's NBC's Heartbeat. Olivia, what did you think?
I think you just summed it up. It was just basically the most recent medical drama.
It's definitely recent. I mean, it premiered last night. Undeniably recent.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, literally pretty much just happened, but this one kind of reminded me, you know that show we previewed a while ago? I think it was like Bad Judge or something.
Oh yeah, I remember Bad Judge.
How could you forget? But it kind of reminded me of that, just set in an operating room, but very much like Bad Judge. It kind of had the same reception.
Yeah, I could totally see that. A sort of traditionally buttoned up profession, where you take a sort of woman who plays by her own rules and stick her in there and let her cause havoc. But wouldn't you know it, she just happens to also be super dedicated and super like a good person. Underneath all the gruffness and sort of exterior. The problem is that this show is about a heart surgeon. And we already have a ton of shows about doctors who fit that exact description. You could close your eyes and throw a stick and hit a doctor on TV who doesn't play by the rules but who has a good heart. That's not, this is not like breaking new ground. And I think the show gives itself, judging by the dialogue, a whole lot more credit than it deserves for making itself about a woman. Because, like, Grey's Anatomy has a lot of female, remember, Code Black premiered, and the central doctor was a woman? Like, there are a lot of female doctors on television right now who have difficult personalities and are sort of high-powered. Like, you don't get credit in 2016 because your show is about a woman. Like, that doesn't... Fine. Great. What else are you bringing to the table? Like, that's not I guess it's better than if it was just a house clone, but you don't, like, there's nothing to applaud just because the central character of the show is a woman, because we've seen that on shows exactly like this one in, like, each of the last 10 seasons. Like, that it's not that big of a deal. So...
No, I completely agree, and I feel like they milked it from, like, the very first, 5 minutes of the show. Like, that's, literally basically how they introduced it was, oh, man, I can do all these complicated procedures, basically without batting an eye, because, I'm, the leading, cardiovascular surgeon, and I also happen to be a woman, and that was, basically the dialogue. Like, they didn't waste any time making you kind of aware of this fact.
Yeah. Oh, I would love for you to remember for me what her actual title at the hospital is.
God, I have no idea.
It's something like Director of Innovation. I
think that's it.
Yeah, it's a deeply stupid on the face of it title, and it's so obviously shoehorned in as a way to clumsily and quickly explain why she is doing insane things in the operating room. She is doing in this first episode, she does this crazy operation, but because she's the Director of Innovation, she's in charge of innovation, and it's oh gosh, really, we really have to go down this road again with a really stupid medical drama. Poor Melissa George, by the way, playing the lead character in this, fresh off her run on The Slap.
Yep, I was actually going to bring that up. And yeah.
going from The Slap to this show, really making the NBC rounds and just not doing great. I have to be honest. I like her a lot. She seems like someone who is talented and pretty, but she is. I mean, I don't think this is her fault by any means, but the writing in both this show and The Slap did not serve her characters well, and she just sort of runs into a buzzsaw on both.
It just, every moment, because I'm like, I feel like there were like, moments where they're like, oh, like look at her, like her life is just like a thing. And I feel like they try to do this a lot with female characters where they're like, oh, like she's like a bottomless pit of chaos, but like underneath all of that, like you had said, she has a good heart and she's actually super talented, but we have to disguise that under, layers of her being a complete comedic mess. And then, we wait, 30 minutes and like we take the last 20 minutes of the show to, kind of wrap in the fact that she actually knows how to do things.
Right. It's the kind of show where her living arrangement is that she lives with the father of her child, who is a rock star who left her for a man.
Yep.
But she is also dating someone at the hospital who she is like on the verge of getting married to, but they have commitment issues. And But so it's like, okay, well, at least that's like a non-traditional living room. Like that's sort of interesting. But then like it's the kind of show that, to drive that home, has the gay rock star that she's living with help her pick out her outfits. like it's like that's the kind of show we're dealing with, where nothing is left to chance. Like again, as you mentioned, she like literally says, "I am a woman who is a surgeon," like 10 times in this pilot. Like it's not a show that even like it's not a show that has a lot going for it, but whatever it perceives to have going for it, it bludgeons the audience over the head with. Like there's no like area of this pilot that is left unexplained by a character who might as well be speaking directly to the camera.
No, exactly. And I think we've talked about this before with other pilots, but I know that you had used the term kind of like the rah-rah feminism, or like the Spice Girls feminism, where it's like, oh, like look at this, women can also do things, women can be leaders, women can, be inventors of innovation, or, head of innovation of their department. And it just was so over the top. Like the audience couldn't figure out that, this woman works in a really competitive field, and, she's doing operations that, aren't that common, and is kind of progressing, her field. But, the fact that you have to be told that 20 times in one episode isn't helping the case at all.
No, and it's like, you know what would be awesome? Like if you were going to make a feminist statement, how about she's not dating her coworker? Like, how about she's not like a complete train wreck? How about she, instead of just like pouting for an entire day in order to get the heart, and just like sitting around and basically yelling 3/4 of her lines, how about she behaves like an adult? Right. And like this to me is what I'm talking about with like that Spice Girls feminism. It's like, yeah, okay, I understand like a woman can be portrayed as like super obnoxious but also brilliant, which is unfortunately a sort of a male traditional role on TV. But it's actually much more progressive and interesting for her to be like someone who actually is not just good at her job, but good at like life instead of a complete train wreck. Like I would be much more interested in a show that was about more of a real person, as opposed to, this stick figure that's been propped up with all kinds of really broad traits. She's the best and she's a woman, and it's like just give me someone who's a real person. Or the other thing I was thinking about is they could have went the other way and taken the director of innovation thing and really kicked it up a notch or two, and had her be doing things that are truly insane, like borderline like supernatural things. Like not that she has powers, but like that she is like so brilliant that she's inventing things like on the fringe of science, and like have it be like a kind of silly show. So I feel like you could either go in a more realistic direction or a more silly, outlandish direction, and the show would have worked a lot better than where it's settled, which is sort of unintentionally outlandish. It's like trying to be credible, but it also is like completely ridiculous, but not in an interesting way.
I completely agree. And actually, if you haven't had the chance, there was, I forget what magazine had done it, but there was an actual heart surgeon who reviewed the episode and kind of gave her take on it. Priceless read, because she was saying a lot of the same things of like, first and foremost, saying, okay, like, these are the medical procedures that were being used. And she's like, here's what, I would have done, which is, besides the point, because obviously it's a TV show, so it's not going to be like 100% medically accurate, but she's just talking about like how insane it goes, to the point that it's like, this woman is doing these crazy complicated procedures that probably didn't need to be done in the first place, and she's basically doing it, without like breaking a sweat, which is sort of like, putting that like, oh, she's like a superhero, she's like so amazing in her profession, but like we were saying before, she's a complete train wreck, and it just is. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you mentioned Leslie Knope, and I mean, Parks and Rec could be a template for virtually any show, given how brilliant that show was. But just like, what I like to see from shows is what Parks and Rec figured out after the first season, which is that if Leslie Knope is a distinct character but is also the most real of the characters, then you can surround her with wacky people, and she anchors the show. Mm-hmm. And what almost every other show screws up is that they feel like their central character has to be the wackiest character, because they mistake wacky for interesting. And so a show like this, I mean, we see her life, and she is like objectively a crazy person. And she's doing things that are completely unacceptable professionally. She's, like you said, doing operations that aren't real things, or that would certainly be unnecessary. Like it's just a mess. And if you made that character a real person, I think I said this about Superstore too. Like, if you made that character a real person, a real person who maybe has some quirks, but is very much grounded in reality, then maybe there would be some room for what was he, like the male orderly or male nurse who calls the Asian lady a super racist thing and everyone laughs about it?
That was horrible.
First of all, that was horrible. But maybe, like, if the central character wasn't the weirdest character, then there would be some room for a sort of wacky band of sidekicks around her, which is exactly what Parks and Rec figured out with Leslie Knope. But instead, the central character just, like, burns up all the oxygen in the room, because she is so, like, insane, and she's doing so much crazy stuff that there's no room on the margins for anyone else to operate, and the entire show sort of takes on her personality and just becomes sort of zany and non-serious. And I would just really appreciate if they would either ground that character more, or, again, go in and play to that strength and just be a zany show. But they don't do either. And it just ends up being a mess that features a, like, overtly racist orderly or whatever his job was.
Right. No, I 100% agree. Just creating that balance. But yeah.
So this one did a 1.4 in the demo with 6.3 million viewers, which is okay. Not a hit, but not something where you're just thinking it's going to be canceled. So Olivia, do you think this one will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or be renewed for next season?
I'm thinking that it might make it through its first season.
Yeah, I think so too. It seems like the kind of show that'll sort of gradually lose ratings, but people like medical dramas.
Yeah.
It'll probably, like, limp through its first season and then be sort of quietly canceled. Yeah. Do you, by the way, did you... I don't think you were the co-host of this podcast at the time, but do you remember the ABC medical drama Black Box?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. I had to look it up. I had to look it up in our podcast feed because I forgot the name of it. But that is a show that is very similar to this one in that it features a sort of insane woman. In that show, she's a brain surgeon, who is brilliant but completely nuts and has, like, a weird social life. In that show, she was also, like, a sex addict, which was a really weird twist. That was like one of the worst pilots of, I think, 2014. But this show gave me a lot of. This show felt to me like the creator watched that Black Box pilot that was so terrible and so low rated and was like, I have an idea. Instead of brains, hearts. And that's how the show got made. But,
oh God, bring a Black Box back for a revival.
Oh, terrible.
Oh no.
Anyway, so Olivia, your final verdict. Thumbs up or thumbs down on Heartbeat?
I think, unsurprisingly, it's going to be 2 thumbs down for me.
Yeah, let's not even get the paddles out for this one. We'll just declare this one dead. DOA. Yeah, 2 thumbs down for me as well. So, you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVimages.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We would very much appreciate that. Or find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.